It's time to have a discussion about defense. As the individual skill level continues to rise for the elite playmakers, combined with their ability to manipulate the rules in their favor, it is forcing teams to get more creative in their approach. It's simply not enough anymore for a coach to claim effort was the reason why their team lost a tough playoff game.
Very poor effort, obviously. We all own it, but very embarrassing.
When you're dealing with guys as good as Nikola Jokic, Jalen Brunson, and Anthony Edwards, the coaches need a more radical game plan than to simply play these guys one-on-one. In fact, the Wolves had a really good game plan to start the series. Put Karl-Anthony Towns on Jokic and let Rudy Gobert hover around the basket. Notice how Jokic won't even look at the hoop on his high post touch, preferring to be the hub of the wheel, and though he makes a nice pass to the cutting Michael Porter Jr., because Rudy is free to roam the paint, he can erase the shot from existence. They try to rub Cat off Jokic with the ball screen. Excellent effort to get around and stay attached. And then watch again how Jokic doesn't even consider attacking the rim when he gets the ball back. In fact, he's not even on the screen by the time Anthony Edwards harasses Jamal Murray into an almost impossible one-footed fadeaway. For some reason, Jokic doesn't look to be aggressive when Cat is guarding him. And this is the name of the game right here. To be able to have Rudy near the block to rotate to the drivers is a huge advantage for Minnesota, and they not only remove Jokic from the equation here, but Rudy turns Murray over. Even when he does get Cat into the lane, he doesn't go at him with any kind of force, probably because he knows Rudy is hovering nearby to offer support if he gets too close to the rim, making him shoot an extra couple of feet farther than he wants to. There's enough evidence of this alignment working to make me wonder loudly why the heck they go away from this strategy during crucial parts of these games. Out of a stoppage of play, they decide to line up with Rudy on Jokic. Suddenly, Jokic is extremely aggressive attacking the paint. With some nice shoulder contact to the chest, Rudy allows him to get to the front of the restricted area. From that close, unless Rudy's blocking it, Jokic is going to make this. This wasn't a fluke. They abandoned their initial matchups to let Rudy guard him while bringing the ball up. We already know Rudy struggles on the perimeter, and I understand why he wants to be stuck to Jokic since he can shoot it from behind the arc, but this cut is ridiculously easy, and now it's Cat who's rotating instead of the other way around. I have reason to believe had they just switched this to start, the Wolves would have at least had a chance. Okay, so you can argue that Cat also gave up an easy cut to Jokic from out top on this one, and this is true. But again, when you have Rudy protecting the rim, at least you've got a chance to get a stop from a nice defensive play. But this game was littered with way too many possessions of Rudy guarding Jokic, and it was a complete and utter catastrophe. And I want to blame the coaching staff for repeatedly letting it happen. I totally understand the argument that Jokic is the best center in the world, unstoppable in the post, but that's precisely why you have to do something different. Get it out of his hands, send a double team, or do what was already working. Put Cat on him and let Rudy hover. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I'd like to present to you Exhibit B, Jalen Brunson. While he plays a much different game than Jokic, the defensive approach needs to be the same. It was even more frustrating watching the Pacers allow Brunson to consistently have his way versus overmatched defenders one-on-one. It started out in the worst way. Brunson calls up Tyrese Halliburton's man to screen for him. This is the flat step-up screen, which means Hallie can't be shading on this side. This has to be a switch, with help coming from the weak side when Hallie gets completely faked out. The reason you need a switch is exactly because of what happens in this play. Without it, Deuce McBride gets wide open for one of his 3 threes. I like the idea of having a bigger defender on Brunson, but Aaron Nesmith just isn't the guy to do this. I'm not sure I'd pressure Brunson up to the half-court line and risk getting pulled out of position so far from the hoop. And he's got to be a lot smarter than this, running into a driving Brunson and fouling for the and one. It's plays like this that make me feel like Brunson is going to score a ton of points every game because Carlisle won't adjust the matchups. And if that's the case, then you've got to use this knowledge to play Sleeper, the ultimate fantasy sports app. What's cool is that you can set your over-under picks before the game or do it live while it's happening. Just pick at least 2 players and whether they'll get more or less from a host of different stats, and you can win up to 100 times your money. So check out my picks for tonight. I got Kyrie getting more than 21.5. I think that's going to be pretty easy for him to do. I'm not so sure Luka is going to combine for 45.5 across points, rebounds, assists. It's a lot of output for him. He's not doing great physically right now. Chet hasn't been getting rebounds in the first quarter, so I'm going lower than 1.5. And then we got Lou Dort. I don't know. He hasn't been scoring well at all in the last 2 games, so I'm going underneath 10.5. And then also Derrick Jones Jr. I think he's going to hit a 3. So look how much money I stand to make with a little bit down. So get in there, try it. It's really, really fun. And if you use my code BBALL100, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $500. There are so many ways to win. It raises the stakes when you watch it, so what are you waiting for? Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. When TJ McConnell comes in, it's a priority to force a switch. So the Knicks start Brunson off the ball, then set a double ball screen. I cannot believe what Haliburton tries here, but maybe you could argue that he knew McConnell was coming underneath the screen to pick him up. Problem is, he's trying to meet the ball at full speed at the elbow. An even bigger problem is Turner doesn't aggressively rotate over to get it out of his hands. They run the same play against TJ, having Brunson come off the ball into a catch with the double ball screen in the other direction. This was a little closer to what I was talking about, but Turner plays this as if he was in foul trouble or something, giving up an easy layup to the only guy they're worried about stopping. But we saw possessions like this far too often, where the defense wasn't doing anything to get the ball out of Brunson's hands. They're still guarding him in their base pick and roll package, and more evidence that Nesmith can't handle it. He reaches in on the drive, then lifts his hand up above his head to tell the ref he didn't actually commit the foul that he did, but this just concedes the floater with nobody else stepping up to take it away. Good defensive teams will focus on the primary scorer and oftentimes shadow him with a second defender to dissuade him from being too aggressive. There isn't one other defender on the Pacers that seem to be concerned with the ball, and Nesmith reaches in, Brunson swats his arm away and gets right to the middle of the paint. Isaiah Jackson should have tried rotating over, but instead, Brunson hits the open short floater. Again, there is no one offering support to Andrew Nembhard, who's got the faint smell of barbecue on him from all the cooking Brunson has done this series. Siakam was almost in position to help, but turns his head while Brunson hits Nembhard with the absolutely nasty inside-out dribble, a nice little head fake thrown in to boot, embarrassing the defense with a little off-foot runner off the glass. I recommend the Pacers study how the Nuggets defended Anthony Edwards, since it was a masterclass. On this drag screen, Jokic is at the 3-point line, Murray is in front, and KCP is on the elbow, presenting a third defender in his way. Jokic's hands are up to prevent the roll pass, and Gordon's closeout to Cat takes away the middle. Jokic shadows the drive, and they're left with this tough runner on his way out of bounds. Edwards doesn't always like to throw the pocket pass to Rudy, and I don't blame him. So the Nuggets are exploiting this with Jokic coming up high to present a second defender and invite Ant to pass the ball. Now they're making Nickeil Walker-Alexander into a playmaker, and they'll take that over Edwards every day and twice on Sundays. Again, Jokic ignores Rudy on the short roll to present a second defender to Edwards with MPJ hovering at the top of the key. They also make sure Justin Holiday is hovering in the paint as an extra defender, so Ant has to split the first two, deal with the reach-in swipe by KCP, and then finish through a little contact. It proves too difficult. Again, check how the Nuggets present 3 defenders to Edwards on this pick and roll. There's just nowhere for him to go, and he promptly loses the ball. They show him 2 defenders to start, one a 7-footer, and then when he gets it back after giving it up, they blast him with a straight double team from Christian Braun. The goal is to simply get it out of his hands, and Anderson reminds us of what happens when others are forced to make plays. They never let up on Ant, even after the Wolves try to get him attacking in the high post against Murray. Brown just blasts him, Edwards is forced to give it up, and while Cat can make plays himself, when there's a non-shooter in the corner, the Nuggets will ignore him, and there's MPJ swatting his back to sender. Now, if we look at the times the Pacers did try and double Brunson, we might see why Carlisle is reluctant to do it. The Knicks are a well-coached team, prepared for most everything, so when Haliburton sends Nesmith to double on the right wing, all Brunson is looking to do is hit the doubler's man at the free throw line. Haliburton is in bad position here. He needed to pick up Josh Hart. Instead, Turner has to, and Haliburton isn't fast enough to get down there before Precious lays it in. I'm not sure you could call this a double since there's zero pressure on the ball. And who knew the Brunson Deuce pick and roll combo would be so lethal, especially when Toppin doesn't rotate like he's supposed to and contest this shot. Halliburton's defense is suboptimal to say the least, and instead of getting it out of Brunson's hands, he simply hedges before getting back to McBride. But when they screen again, he jumps out on another hedge, which directly allows Brunson to split the defense. Siakam just gives up ground, essentially not doing anything defensively, as Brunson hits the wide open floater from 12 feet. I had trouble believing my eyes as Brunson begins to wind the clock down to end the second quarter. Not one other defender moves towards the ball to offer support. Halliburton is doing a good job standing and pointing, but leaving Nembhard on an island isn't fair to him as the lead continues to grow. In the second half, we see Turner stepping up much like Jokic did to Ant, but on this simple pass to the wing, look at the terrible angle Nembhard takes on his closeout. This looks like they're ready to veer switch with Halliburton taking the ball and Nembhard going to the corner. Nembhard did his job, but Hallie laughably swipes 2 feet short of the ball and lets Dante DiVincenzo get both feet in the paint to shoot this open floater. I was happy to see a real double team to force Brunson to give it up, but like I said, the Knicks are well coached. Watch Hartenstein already be in position to pin down on the one guy responsible for rotating to the shooter, getting him a wide open shot. There were multiple possessions in Game 5 where TJ McConnell was in the game but not guarding Brunson. According to Synergy, Brunson is shooting 33% when TJ is the primary defender. So not only is it crazy that they're not ensuring this matchup during the minutes they're giving him, Carlisle is only playing him 20 minutes a game in this series. Look at the on-off numbers compared to Nesmith and Nembhard, and it's confounding that they're playing so much more than McConnell. It's the same frustration I have watching the Timberwolves flail about trying to guard Jokic with Rudy Gobert, who simply cannot guard him one-on-one. And before you ask, well, who in the world can? Just remember that they already have the formula. They're just not sticking to it. And if that continues to happen, neither the Timberwolves nor the Pacers will be advancing to the next round.